Hello, Sam here from the League One Lowdown Preview Show. Don't worry, we'll be getting to Jamie and Seb's review show in just a minute. I'm just letting you know that 81% of you who watch our podcasts aren't currently subscribed. If you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of the season. It would be greatly appreciated and mean a lot to all four of us. So thank you, and we'll get on now with the review episode.
Burton get out of the relegation zone as Bristol Rovers swap places with them, and Wycombe Wanderers close the gap to Wrexham. Welcome to the League One Lowdown review episode. Hello everyone and welcome to the League One Lowdown, brought to you by the Deck Podcast Network. I'm Seb Jones and alongside Jamie Johnson as ever. Jamie, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Seb. How are you?
Good, yes, I'm very good, thank you. Added bonus with the result of the weekend, which I'm sure we will get onto. We sort of mentioned off air that actually the things we're going to talk about today are all based on matches rather than sort of a lot of off-field matters, as has been the case over the last few weeks. And I guess the only off-field matter we're going to cover today is nothing to do with any League One club. It's to do with us, and that was quite a swift move, if I say so myself. And we're just letting you guys know that on Wednesday, the 16th of April, which is the Wednesday coming at 7 p.m. There's going to be a League One Lowdown live stream with all four presenters. So myself and Jamie will be joined by Sam and Callum at 7 p.m. live on our YouTube channel to discuss all things League One, to discuss the Easter fixtures coming ahead, to discuss sort of the last few games of the season, the playoff chase, the promotion race, the relegation battle, which of course has just heated up at the weekend as well. So there's lots to get involved in. Be a mini quiz as well from Sam is what I'm hearing. So plenty for you guys to get involved in as well. It's set to be a really good evening of entertainment, and we do hope that you can join us at 7 on Wednesday. Anything else, Jamie, that I've missed out?
I think you've covered it all there. I know the quiz we did one very similar at Christmas. It's going to be a similar sort of feeling to that Christmas live stream we did. So covering the two games, the Good Friday, the Easter Monday game, because we're missing our usual review slot next weekend to have a little Easter break. So the live stream's got you covered instead on Wednesday coming, and yeah, it's going to be hopefully a lot of fun. And the other thing we'll be talking about as well is the EFL Trophy final, because we'll put this out early before we get all the comments saying, why haven't you talked about it? We're recording this before the EFL Trophy final. This is Sunday morning as we record. It's Sunday afternoon, obviously, the cup final, because we're off to watch some ice hockey, aren't we, Seb, this afternoon? So that is the reason we're not covering this after the fact. But we'll talk about that on Wednesday, I'm sure. And congratulations to Birmingham. I'll put that in there because I'm sure they'll pick up the win this afternoon.
Yeah, I'll just clip that and go, congratulations to Peterborough as well.
Yeah.
We've got either options. But yeah, as Jamie said, I'm sure there'll be plenty of sort of EFL Trophy final talk on the live stream as well. So plenty of options covered, and there's going to be all four of us there, so sort of different points of view, and we'll be able to interact with you guys in the comments as well. So yeah, don't miss that, 7 p.m. on the League One Lowdown YouTube channel. Right, on to the action from the weekend, and we're going to start with a game that sort of just altered things slightly at the top in the match between Wycombe and Stevenage, the early kickoff. It seemed to sort of just dribble out this one, but Wycombe left it late.
Yeah, but I mean, they left it late, but they got the win is the important thing. Obviously, Wrexham, we won't talk about their game finishing 0-0, but they dropped points against Wigan, which left Wycombe with a chance to close that gap to second, and that's what they did. They left it late, a frustrating game, but they got the points, and it doesn't really matter at this stage of the season how they come. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's the points on the board that make the difference, and that gap now has been closed. It's just the 1 point now between Wycombe and Wrexham in that battle for second. And yeah, a little bit of a scrappy game, a little bit of a messy game, but yeah, I mean, the result is obviously what matters in the end. They had one disallowed, did Wycombe, for an offside that, from the view, it was the opposite side of the pitch, the linesman to the camera, so it wasn't really clear on the camera side, but there wasn't too many complaints. And the goal came in the 91st minute, as you mentioned, the late winner, Caleb Taylor. Very scrappy goal, which continues that theme of it not being pretty, but just being what needed to be done in the end. And Kone missed a free header in the first half, which was the other sort of point I picked out of watching through the highlights and that sort of, which was an unbelievable miss, really, for someone who's been scoring a lot of goals this season. But yeah, I mean, you can analyse it all you like. It doesn't matter really how it happened. It's the fact that Wycombe have closed that gap and they've put themselves back in with a chance. They're still relying on Wrexham dropping more points, but they're in the mix and they've done their bit.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned there is now just 1 point in it. There's only 3 in it, and the goal difference as well. So, Wycombe are catching Wrexham, and I guess an unlikely goal scorer in Taylor, not really one for the limelight, but he actually just had a chance from a similar sort of set piece routine just a minute or so before he grabbed his goal. And yeah, you sort of mentioned, I guess, Kone, you would back your house on him scoring that sort of chance that he got and being the man to step up in these big occasions. It wasn't him, but it doesn't really matter at this point. Like I said, who the goal comes from, it's about getting that goal and it's about closing the gap. And yes, they've got to rely on results and elsewhere, but you've got to pick up results yourself, and that's exactly what they've done. And we've only just a matter of 6 games left. The 1 point we've been out really.
4 games. We've got the 2 over Easter weekend, and then just a couple after that. I mean, this is something we'll obviously touch on more on the live stream, but their running, Wycombe, is Bolton, Charlton, Leyton Orient, and Stockport, which is an unbelievably difficult running. Whereas for Wrexham, it is Bristol Rovers, Blackpool, Charlton, and then Lincoln on the last game of the season, which is easier, but still by no means easy, with Bristol Rovers fighting for their lives and Charlton in there as well. That is the interesting bit for me, that they've both got quite difficult run-ins. Wycombe even harder than Wrexham's, but they've put themselves back in with a shout after some really poor performances, some really poor results, and they're back in that mix. And I think they're a team, Wycombe, who have to finish second if they are to go up, because a team like Wycombe, the way they've been playing recently, are going to struggle in the playoffs against those teams just below them who are in better form and a bit flashier, which often comes good in the playoffs come the end of the season. But yeah, it's an interesting situation they're in now, and that gap closing makes it a lot more interesting, which is always nice at this point of the season.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. And I guess as for just a word on Stevenage, just quickly, they'll be disappointed to concede the late goal. That they grabbed a win last Saturday against Crawley, but I guess other than that win last weekend, it's you have to stretch back until the start of March for their last win before. So sort of a little bit inconsistent again. They'll be disappointed with that late goal, won't they?
Yeah, because they're not really a team that does that very, very often. They're quite sort of sturdy in defence. Piergiani forced a really nice save out of the Wycombe goalkeeper that would have put it 1-0 in the other way. But they're one of those teams that are hard to beat, Stevenage. And yeah, I mean, I think they'll be disappointed to be undone, I beg your pardon, by a really late goal. And the way it came as well, I mean, there was about 4 shots, 15 deflections. It was it was hitting everybody in the box, and eventually Taylor poked it home. And that's that bit of desire, isn't it? That little bit of they've got something to play for, whereas Stevenage in the middle of the table don't really have much to play for in terms of anything going up, going down side of things. So I mean, it's that little bit more desire, that little bit more intensity, and they've just put the ball in the back of the net right at the death.
Absolutely. I guess we'll move on to match number 2 of this review show. And there's a reason at the top of the show I said I was in good spirits, and that's because of the result between Barnsley and Bolton. Certainly not one you would have expected on the face of things, Jamie.
Yeah, unbelievable, really. I mean, I'll give you obviously more reins on it because you were there for this one. But yeah, they met it's a rematch of the playoffs semi-finals from last year, wasn't it? Not to remind you of that. But Barnsley, they put themselves up into 11th for first win in 8 games. And they did it in some style as well. I mean, all 4 goals were superb. The second one, the free kick routine, they are worth... If you're going to watch any highlight package from the weekend, watch this one, because all 4 Barnsley goals were unbelievable. And yeah, the second one especially, the free kick routine was off the training ground and then some. Russell and Jallow with a couple each. But yeah, I mean, yeah. What do you make to it? You were there, of course. It was just unbelievable, really, seeing the scores come through.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case, really. I guess Bolton had the momentum. They had the sort of desire. Results the past couple of weeks have not gone their way, but nevertheless, they're still in amongst that place in chasing pack for the playoffs. And so I don't know, as sort of a Barnsley fan, as a Barnsley contingent, not that it will be a right over, but clearly Bolton were the favourites coming into this one. They strong characters in that, strong players, good quality in amongst the side, in a good manager in Schumacher as well. They all sort of seem to all stack up in Bolton's favour and none really for Barnsley. But yeah, we absolutely just played them off the park, especially in that first half. The intensity, the pressure, the desire to sort of win the ball back constantly, to just attack, really, from a Reds point of view. It's something we've not really seen much this season, if at all. Just that sort of the energy and the urge and that desire, as I mentioned. And like you mentioned, of all 4 goals, 2 from John Russell, 2 from Fabio Jallo, all special in their own right, and all sort of quite a few of them had a really nice build up to them. Jallo's first, and then the second one from the free kick as well, and Russell's nice little finish on outside of the area. Really nice couple of finishes in there. They were slightly disappointed, I think, to concede, but there's a first win under interim head coach for Conor Harrihan, and that's at his 6th attempt of action. So he had 5 games, 2 draws, 3 defeats, and at his 6th time of asking, managed to grab his first win of sort of his interim charge. He was given 10 games and sort of has 6 already under his belt. So 4 more to go. Really good going. And actually, I think that's the first win in 7 altogether, because bear in mind the last couple of results under Darryl Clark were defeats. So it's the first win in 7 for Barnsley. And yeah, they were really happy with that. Really pleased with the performance. Bolton came out second half and had were pretty dominant at the start of the second 45, but Barnsley just sort of rode out the wave, and then in the end, sort of 70th minute, then had a couple of attacking opportunities and took the absolute most of them. So yeah, I guess for Bolton, I'm obviously slightly biased from Barnes' point of view, but for Bolton, the thing that got me was a triple substitution on 38 minutes. One of them was because Aaron Morley went off on a stretcher, which I completely understand. But why not just wait till half time? So Schumacher made 3 on 38, then 1
What
at
was
half
the score
time.
at that point? 2-0?
It would have been 2-0, yeah. So 3 on 38, one substitute at half time, and then 1 very early in the second half. And Bolton actually finished the game with 10 men, because the players couldn't continue. I think it was Asai Tutu went off injured because he just couldn't continue the game. So Bolton finished with 10 men. Not to say that's the reason they lost, but it's an absolutely contributing factor. He just obviously couldn't continue, and I guess that's sort of a pie in the face for Schumacher, making his substitute so early. I get it, in terms of making an impact and everything that comes with that. I completely get that. There was a slight change of formation as well, but I didn't get it, really. I didn't get it. Just wait till half time for bearing the Morley coming off on the stretcher. Obviously, you need to replace him then. But bearing the other 2 subs, just wait till half time. I really didn't get it at
it's
all.
strange,
I think
isn't
that, like I said, I get him trying to make an impact. There were 2 without that point. And yeah, I really didn't get it. I don't think that helped the cause at all from a Bolton point of view.
Yeah, and what it does is it puts some 3 points from the playoffs. So down in 8th now, with Leyton Orient, who we're going to talk about a bit later on, leapfrogging them. And it's 2 losses in a row. I mean, I describe this as a drubbing on my notes, and I think that's probably the most apt word for it, because they're absolutely battered. And after defeat leading into this, it's the sort of the wheels are starting to come off the playoff chasing train, if you like, for Bolton. And I'm not really sure why. It's a hard one to pinpoint, because they were doing so well when Schumacher first came in, and they've sort of hit this stumbling block. I mean, obviously a lot of games to talk about, but is there something? You mentioned the triple substitution, but how would you just sort of describe how they were playing Bolton? Is there sort of a specific issue you think in that team that in the way they were playing? Because I mean, if Barnsley putting 4 past you, something's gone wrong, hasn't it? The way Barnsley have been playing.
Yeah, they just look shaky at the back. They look really shaky. And Almeida Santos came in. Almeida Ricardo Santos came in to start, and he just looked really shaky. Really, not just him. Him sort of pinpoint just one example, but it's just really they couldn't deal with the pressure on the back line and the pressing and just the attacking play that Barnes has dealt with. There was no real support in midfield there either, supporting the back line. I think they just weren't ready for the onslaught of attacks. I think in terms of from the Bolton back line. They started off as a back three, and then changed to a 4-1-38, and they looked slightly better. You know, they dominated the end of the first half, but and even still, they just sort of capitulated at the end, going into the second half. So yeah, I don't think they expected the onslaught of Barnsley attack. You mentioned sort of their poor form as well. Not only 2 wins in 7 for Bolton under Steven Schumacher. You know, they had such a good run, as you said, such a good run when Schumacher first took over. But for a side that's placing chasing a playoff sport, 2 wins in 7 it's dire, really. That sort of form will get you nowhere. It's sort of a relegation mid-table form, really. And I may add, the other 5 results have all been defeats. It's not as though there's a couple of draws in there. They've all been defeats, and obviously back-to-back defeats against South Yorkshire clubs as well in Rotherham and Barnsley in the past 2 games. So massive concern for Bolton. They obviously have a couple of injuries to worry about going forward as well. As mentioned, Morley coming off of a stretcher, side 2-2 off as well. I think there were a couple more niggles of players that did come off, so that can't help the cause going forward with the games and under Steven Schumacher. So yeah, interesting. I guess just finally on this one, it's a sign of the times, really. You mentioned that this one was a playoff semi-final last year. It was also a playoff semi-final the year before, and now it's sort of not a dead rubber as such, because Bolton can still play for it, but realistically their chances are falling, really. So it's a sign of a disappointing season, I guess, for both sides. A sign of the times in terms of recent years for both sides.
I think that's interesting, yeah. I mean, especially for Barnsley, obviously. Barnsley is going to sit mid-table come the end of the season. Bolton, they've got that chance still. It's only 3 points, but I think their goal difference is worse off. And yeah, I mean, they're still in that hunt, but I mean, it's all on their own back though if they don't end up getting there, because it was in their hands for a good period of time and they've let it slip. So yeah, well, interesting to see how these next few games goes. A lot can change, obviously, but yeah, at the minute it is sort of that slide, isn't it, from Bolton?
Yeah, we'll move on now to chat about sort of another playoff side. This side more firmly in amongst the top 6. That's Stockport County. They were hosting Rotherham United, a fellow South Yorkshire club that beat Bolton in the past week. And Rotherham have been under a good run of form in the past couple of games under Matt Hamshaw, but weren't able to add this one. And Stockport just too much for the Millers.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way of putting it, really. I mean, 11 points clear of 7th they are now, Stockport. 4 games to go. It's on Friday they could secure that playoff spot, and it really is now about how high they can finish. If they finish 3rd, 4th, whatever it is, they're currently obviously 4th, and that would secure a second leg at home, which is a massive advantage when you come to the playoffs. It's 4 wins in a row for them, just 1 defeat in 9. Incredible form, really. If they come from behind in this one, Malik Wilts scored early on. And dominated things, really. I mean, the XG, not to sound like Sam, but 2.17 it was for Stockport compared to 0.48 for Rotherham, and 7 shots on target, 17 overall. They've sort of battered Rotherham a little bit in terms of those sort of side of things. And Rotherham were looking good. They were three games in a row, 3 wins in a row under Matt Hamshaw, the interim, and this one is first defeat. Sold out Edgeley Park, which is a really lovely ground. I know we've both done away days at Edgeley Park, and it's a proper football ground. But Jack Diamond was the one who got the goal back after Malik Wilts' opener before half time, and then Hills sneaking in at the back post. That was a really nicely worked goal as the ball came in, and he sort of appeared at the back post and nodded it in. And then the third goal, the one that sealed it, there was a penalty shout at one end. It looked a bit soft. I think the referee made the right decision. And then immediately at the other end, on the counter-attack, Kyle Wilton scored. And it's 4 in 4 for him, hitting form at exactly the right time. So really impressive stuff for Stockport. And I think the way you put it, to throw it back to you, that they were just too much for Rotherham is exactly the way for it. Is Rotherham doing well, but not well enough to beat a really superb Stockport team.
Yeah, well, Rotherham sort of had a pretty good run of form. So I guess it sort of shows how much better Stockport are, really, in terms of the quality on the pitch and the fact they can just grind out results. Going 1-0 up is always tricky, really, especially when you are away from home and with the sold out Edgeley Park, as you mentioned, getting behind the team, which they do every single home game, and getting that goal just a few minutes before half time. Jack Diamond, as you say, getting the first goal for Stockport, crucial, really. It changes the half time team talk, but also gives Stockport a little bit of momentum going forward in that second half. And yeah, Wootton again on the score sheet, I think he goes absolutely under the radar from a sort of goals point of view. He's now hit 13 this season so far, which I think is really good going. 8 assists in that as well in terms of his league total, which are really good going. Absolutely under the radar for me. And yeah, they just keep ticking along, Stockport, no matter sort of, Rotherham, pretty good form, as we mentioned, going into this one, and they just keep ticking along, picking up those good results, picking up, a couple of different goal scorers on the sheet as well there. And yeah, certainly, as you mentioned, sort of can confirm a playoff spot on Friday, and well deserved, really. And you would absolutely sort of back them to do exactly that. It's just been a great season for Stockport. For Rotherham, slightly disappointed, I think, in terms of their run of results comes to an end. But I think things have been better overall under Matt Hampshire, which I think will please the Rotherham fans, and they have got a good backing at home at the New York Stadium last week as well. So things are looking positive, and again, they'll sort of look for a positive end to the season, I think. But yeah, Stockport, are they your favourites going forward, playoffs, or too early to chat about playoff talk?
I don't know. Yeah, perhaps it is a little bit too early. I'm still at the minute backing Charlton for promotion, being through the playoffs. Obviously, they're not going to be able to reach up to the automatics now. And yeah, I'm still backing them. I think they really are the team to beat. But Stockport are in the mix, and it is all about momentum. I know we always talk about that, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as we get close to the playoffs. But the team with the momentum tends to be the team that challenges or is perhaps the strongest of those teams going in. And Stockport, Charlton, Reading, obviously just below them, whoever is able, if anybody is able to lift into that sixth spot as well, that they're the ones who are going to be having that momentum, and that will swing things. But yeah, Charlton for me at the minute. But Stockport, and you can't write them off at all. They've been fantastic all season, and losing Louis Barry in January, they've not looked to miss him at all. And Wootton's fell into that gap and really filled it quite remarkably. I mentioned obviously 4 in 4. He got an assist in this game as well, and he's just sort of churning out those big performances, those goal contributions at exactly the right time for Stockport. And yeah, just another good performance. I mean, you mentioned just ticking over, and it's another good result here against a team that could have been a potential banana skin playing so well of late, Rotherham.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 4 wins in a row now for Stockport, and only 1 defeat in 9, which is really good going for Dave Chalmers' side. We'll move on now to chat about Crawley hosting Leyton Orient, another side in the playoff mix. And it looked a disappointing start, but Leyton Orient got the result that they would have wanted, Jamie.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. I think that they started off pretty poorly. I spoke to Sam, who watched this one, and yeah, he gave the same sort of synopsis. They started poorly, but that Crawley goal scoring from the penalty spot spurred them on, and they got the turnaround win in the end. I guess we'll talk about their playoff sort of credentials in a second, but Charlie Kelman, he's that man again. I know Sam talked about him really in detail with Callum on the preview show, but another 2 goals for him. He's got 4 in 2 games, 3rd brace of the campaign as well. The first goal, sort of a hoofed clearance that he got on the end of, bullied the defender and got there. And we've been able to say all the way through that sort of he doesn't score penalties, but he scored one now. He's got 19 goals for the season, and his second one of this game was from the spot. But he's the League One top goal scorer at the minute, and he is that part of that Leyton Orient team that is just constantly pushing them forward. And you take that out, obviously they're a completely reduced prospect. But with Charlie Kelman, that they're elevated from a mid-table team to a really sort of forward pushing, potentially playoff crashing, gate crashing team. And I guess that's the question I'll put to you. I mean, they're well and truly back in it, aren't they? In terms of the playoff race, just 3 points now behind Reading.
They absolutely are. Yeah, 3 points. It's, we've seen this sort of stuff done before in terms of teams going on that run, and Leyton Orient have it done exactly that. And they were disappointed with the Burton result a few weeks ago, but they seem to put that behind them. 2 wins on the bounce now, and Barnsley at home on Good Friday. So certainly, one to not begrudge in terms of Leyton Orient's charge. They missed out last year on the playoffs. Maybe this year could be the year. I guess just to sort of go back to the game just a second. We mentioned sort of Kelman and his impact, and I guess scoring from from the penalty spot. It's all happened in a matter of minutes, really, in terms of Crawley taking the lead on 49, and then Kelman got the equaliser on 52, and then 53 grabbed his second. So in just a matter of minutes, Leyton Orient just managed to turn the game around, which is exactly what you want when you are chasing these results, when you are fighting for a spot in the playoff positions, and they've done exactly that. And a game can change in a matter of minutes, and I guess it might have been a bit uneasy until Donnelly got that late sort of third, just to seal things and put any doubters to bed. But yeah, Kelman, you mentioned his impact. He's a quality player, and Leyton Orient need him going forward in this last couple of games, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a similar thing, sort of copy and paste what I said about Kyle Wilton in the Stockport chat a minute ago, because he's hitting form. I mean, he's hit form all season, hasn't he? But he's really turned it up to the next level over these past few games with the two braces in a row. And I mean, he's been a real revelation for them this season, hasn't he? And that just continues into this run-in, which is, as you mentioned there, Seb, absolutely vital at this stage of the season. And they have a better goal difference than Reading. They've got the best goal difference, actually, of all those teams in the playoff chasing sort of area, the teams chasing for sixth. And just the 3 points behind, that's one defeat. If Reading lose one game, obviously it implies that Orient are going to win all of theirs. But if they are going to get in the playoffs, they'll have to. It's as simple as that. But in terms of relying on everybody else, one defeat elsewhere and they're straight into sixth. So it's definitely doable. There's a few of the teams I think we've been sort of writing teams off a bit further down, but I don't think we ever did write Leyton Orient off, which is nice. Because I think Sam did. I think Sam was going the pessimistic view. Obviously, the Leyton Orient fan trying to sort of play down the chances, I think. Trying to sort of maybe temper his own expectations. But they're well and truly in the mix, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. And there's no reason why they can't do it, though. They are obviously relying on other results going in their favour.
I guess just a word for Crawley. That's 3 defeats on the bounce now after 2 wins prior. They're not mathematically down, and they are only 6 points off. Is that it for them, do you think, Crawley? In 22nd place?
The thing is, it's 7 points, really, because of the goal difference. This is a problem. If it was 6 points and they had a better goal difference, then they're well and truly in there, because they've not got an awful sort of running. They have Birmingham next, which you can write that one off, can't you? And then after that, it's Exeter, Northampton and Shrewsbury, who will already be relegated by then. So they're not difficult games, really. It's 2 teams who, by that point, will be safe of relegation, but in that sort of mix where, well, we're safe, we're fine, we can just relax. And then the team at the bottom of the table who would have already been relegated by then. So it's, as far as those last 3 games go, it's as easy as they can get in some regards, but it's the fact that they are 6 points off and their goal difference is so much worse than Burton's and even Bristol Rovers. Burton's is minus 15, Crawley's is minus 32. It's a remarkable sort of stat they've got there. They've conceded 81 goals this season, Crawley, which tells you all you need to know. It's the worst by 10 goals. Shrewsbury conceded 71. So no, they can't stay up. For me, I mean, I've gone really far around the houses to answer your question there, Seb. But it's the fact that for me, it's 7 points. I think on paper, it was 6 points, better goal difference. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's 6 points and goal difference becomes the extra that I don't see Burton losing 3 of these last 4 games, which is what needs to happen. If Burton lose 3 of the 4, Crawley win 3 of the 4, then they'll overtake them. But I just don't see it happening. I really don't, because I back Burton. We're going to talk about Burton obviously in a minute, but I just don't see it happening personally. Are you any more optimistic? But for me, I think we can add them to Cambridge and Shrewsbury.
No, I agree. Really, I just put it out there just to play the devil's advocate type role. But I think I think it's all in the goal difference, really, and we'll just mention the impact of goal difference for the other relegation sides in a second. But Crawley Town, I think they had that really good run of form, and they just weren't able to capitalise on it at all. The beating Bristol Rovers 1-0, a fellow sort of rival in that bottom 5-6 places, and then spanking Rotherham 4-0, which ultimately led to the sacking of Steve Evans, and sort of they seem to go downhill from there. So it's been pretty poor from a Crawley point of view. And I just can't see them clawing it back. And I guess you do look to the next game, and that's against Birmingham, which they need points at this stage, and they're not going to get any points away at Birmingham.
Which would be Birmingham's title winning, won't it? I think as well, because
I think so. Yeah,
they would have won it over the weekend had Wrexham lost and they drew, so it sort of pushes it back a little bit. And I think a win for Birmingham would seal it for them, so that they've got all the incentive in the world, haven't they?
I think they've already sealed it, Birmingham. I think because of the Wrexham, because of the
it was a draw.
combined of the Wrexham result and the Wycombe result, I think Birmingham are champions of League One. So they're sort of celebrating over the weekend when they've not even played at the time of recording. I may add, they may all be also celebrating.
No, you're correct. You are, yeah.
Yeah, they may also be celebrating later on because of the EFL Trophy.
Yes.
But they are champions because of the result elsewhere. And I think it was actually decided before the 3 p.m. kickoffs. I think it was at the early kickoff with Wycombe.
Because Wrexham were the early kickoff.
Wrexham and Wycombe were both the early kickoffs, yeah. So the results combined meant that Birmingham were champions, yeah. So I guess we sort of...
Well, apologies there.
Just put the
My
crown...
maths evades me, doesn't it?
Yeah, certainly just put the crown in the jewels there for Birmingham and their season. We mentioned sort of the impact of the goal difference. I guess we've got to see that. We've got to talk about an exact example of that over the weekend, and that sort of is in the tussle up between Burton and Bristol Rovers for the last relegation spot. We'll mention Burton first because it's their result that meant they went above the relegation zone for the first time since September the 14th. And it's a proper spanking of Huddersfield Town. Proper result here for Burton Albion.
Yeah, that's exactly the word for it. They were unbelievable, really. But I mean, I don't even know if it was the word for it, because I mean, before this game, I think I was expecting Burton to do something in the game, but not a 3-0. I mean,
yeah.
Huddersfield are really sort of devoid of ideas, is the way I put it with them, and I guess we'll go in a little bit more detail on them in a second, because the main story is that Burton are out of the relegation zone, the first time since September the 14th that they're above the dotted line, and it's 3 wins out of 5, 2 wins in a row on their own patch, and as I say, out of the relegation zone, and that is absolutely critical. The goal difference we talked about a minute ago is in their favour. They have a better goal difference than Bristol Rovers, who they are ahead on that matter. And it was a corner that brought the first goal, being kept alive at the back post and poked in, and the crossing was continuing to cause trouble for Huddersfield, which is as much as a positive for Burton, a real negative for Huddersfield. And yeah, the 3 goals, similar to what we were talking about with Stockport and Leyton Orient, the 3 goals shared between the 2 strikers. It's the strikers scoring when you need them to. And without Bodvarsson, who was a real sort of revelation when he came in January, the 2 strikers are the ones who've scored the 3 in this game, and that is absolutely critical. And I mean, it's been really impressive. I think it's not been difficult to back Burton to get out of the relegation zone with Bristol Rovers floundering like they have been, but it's still an incredible achievement, and they just hope now that they'll be able to cling on and continue.
Yeah, you mentioned the strikers there. We spoke about them a few weeks ago, but I guess we need to highlight Roman Burrell. Sort of wasn't involved really in pre-January, if you like, in the start of the season, and then it's coming to the side in January under Gary Boyer, and sort of set the world alight, really. It's 10 goals and 2 assists now since the turn of the year. And you're right, ordinarily, the past few weeks have been playing with Bodvarsson, but them two have had a really solid connection, but it's able to sort of continue that link up with Larson. But yeah, Burrell, I think is a really key for them. Only 24 years of age, and has got a real bright future ahead of him. I think, coming in from Scotland, Falkirk and Cove Rangers before moving to Burton Albion at the start of the season, but wasn't, as I said, wasn't really getting a look in. But then since the turn of the year, he's sort of been the mainstay, been always on the team sheet, first name on the team sheet, if you like. And yeah, so real highlight to them, I think, and to Burrell and Larson for stepping up in the Bodvarsson role. I think, a Swedish striker replacing an Icelandic striker up front. So yeah, but I credit to Guy Boyer for picking up these sort of results and picking up the momentum. They've only got 5 games left, if my maths is right, and 3 of those are at home.
because they have a game in hand.
Yeah, 3 of those are at home, which I think is a massive boost, really. And the next one is away at Exeter, who themselves have struggled, been a bit inconsistent as of late. So certainly sort of windows of opportunity. Yes, they play Birmingham at home, so that will be a big struggle for them. But they play Cambridge, they play Wigan. I mentioned the Exeter game already, and their last game is away to Charlton, by which they would have hoped to already sealed their safety. And Charlton, but by that point, hopefully sealed their playoff spot as well. So hopefully, nothing to play for come the last game. But in terms of 3 of the last 5 are at home, which they should use to their advantage massively in terms of Gary Boyer's side. I guess we've got to look at it from a Huddersfield point of view as well now, and massively disappointing result, really, to go to a side in the relegation zone. But it's sort of the way Huddersfield have been headed, a string of really poor results over the past few weeks.
Yeah, I saw them against Lincoln. It was around at the start of the month, and they were absolutely abysmal. They're devoid of ideas, is what I used earlier. Just really drab football, and they were outplayed here. No shots on target in this game at all. It's just 1 win in 5 now. That against Mansfield, and it really confused me. I mean, they got rid of Michael Duff, and I think that might have come back to bite them, to be honest with you, because I mean, they're just, as much as I understand there was frustrations with Michael Duff, and perhaps they weren't. Well, they were. There's no perhaps they weren't as good as they should have been. They're much worse now with John Worthington, who doesn't seem to be able to sort of get them ticking. And the thing that stands out for me most, of course, I saw Joe Taylor a lot at Lincoln last year, and we spoke about it last week, and not to sort of tread on ground we've already trod on, but he got hooked off at half time in this game. I mean, he's like sort of they bought a Ferrari and asked him to off-road, isn't it? It's just sort of you don't buy a player who fits one mould and then get him to do something else. If you're spending 2-3 million on a footballer, you build it around him. You don't buy a striker who plays up, like in the channels, making runs in behind and just lump the ball up to him, trying to make him sort of play off second. It's ridiculous. It's really stupid, and that is one of the real reasons for me that it just isn't working, because they're not playing to their strengths. It's about accentuating, not that I can say the word, but sort of promoting the strengths and hiding the weaknesses. And instead, they're sort of doing the opposite. We're playing this style of football. It doesn't fit who they've got up top. And I mean, I think that's sort of my piece on Huddersfield. It's really annoying for me having to see Joe Taylor last season and how good he was, and to see him underutilised it was frustrating when they played against Lincoln, but it's not stopping, is it? And you've got to feel sorry for Huddersfield fans, because I mean, when they played against Lincoln, they were booed off half time, full time. It was, so you're not fit to wear the shirt and all that sort of chanting after the game, and you can see why, because they're just nowhere near as good as they should be, and the playoffs is looking a stretch too far for them now.
Yeah, and I think we saw similar chanting in the stands at Burton as well at half time. They were 2-0 down at half time, and then full time was 3-0. And I think both of the referees' whistle was met by boos from the travelling fans from Huddersfield. Yeah, so really disappointing time. I guess in terms of league position, that drops Huddersfield all the way down to 9th and 5 points off the playoffs. Is that them out?
Yeah, I think so, because I think that not so much that there's the points, it's the fact that there's teams in that gap above them who are more likely to be picking up victories. They're playing such poor football. Obviously, they're not out until it's mathematical, and they could scrape a few results. Wycombe, we talked about earlier, haven't been playing well, but have been scraping results, and Huddersfield need to find that. They don't need to play amazing football. They just need to win games, and none of it's working. They're not playing good football and they're not winning games. It's sort of the two sort of negatives combining. And yeah, I think for me it's a real struggle. And I don't, because they're battling for one place, aren't they? That everybody's battling for Reading's spot, because the rest of them are so far in front in terms of Charlton and Stockport, and obviously the three above that everyone's fighting for one spot. And you've got Reading, Leyton, Orient, even Bolton. You fancy more. That they really sort of fall to the wayside, and I just don't see them turning it around in terms of how they're playing and how they're not scraping results and they're not able to drive something. It was something we talk about Burton a lot, that they might not play well at times. This game, obviously, they did, but sometimes they don't play well. They'll play for moments and they'll win a game, or they'll pick up a point where perhaps they've not been the better team. That's something Huddersfield don't have, and that has been sort of a continuing theme, but especially now, the way they've been playing these last few games.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is their. I picked them rather stupidly as champions of in our prediction episode right at the start of the season.
I think I had them going up as well, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think I picked Birmingham. So.
Yeah, I think all you Jimmy, you, Callum and Sam all put Birmingham, and I went for the left field choice of Huddersfield. I just think they've got so many good players still. You know,
yeah.
the likes of Sorensen, the likes of Joe Taylor, the likes of Dion Charles as well, Ben Wiles, Jonathan Horgan, sort of been around the block, and these are all good players. But something is just not really working. You know, Nichols in goal was the Championship goalkeeper of the year a few seasons ago. He's a good option. There's just something's not making them tick, and whether that is a manager, whether that is a playing style, something is clearly not right at Huddersfield, and it needs proper looking at in terms of going forward into next season, because the quality is there. They're just not being utilised, and the players are not being given that opportunity to show the quality, which is the most disappointing thing. You mentioned sort of Joe Taylor as an example. There's so many other players you could sort of look at the squad and go, well, they're a good player, or they were really good 2 years ago, what's happened to them? Or they were good last year, what's happened to them? So, yeah, it's a frustration, I think, really, around Huddersfield. And, yeah, it's just not been their season at all this year.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess... flipping it back to Burton, they came out of the relegation zone, but it meant that Bristol Rovers dropped into the relegation zone.
Look at that.
I know that was quite smooth after a 2-1 defeat at home to Exeter. It's not looking great for Bristol Rovers at the minute, is it?
Yeah, it's going to be real sort of hammer and tongs, this little fight now between Burton and Bristol Rovers, but they've ceded their superiority in the race. It's 6 defeats in a row, and yeah, I mean it's their worst losing run in over 20 years. I think that's stretched even further. It was that before the game. I'm not sure what it's stretched to now, but it's a poor performance and a result that matches it. And it, as you mentioned there, Seb, it's becoming difficult for Bristol Rovers now, because not only have they ceded that the driving seat in the charge to stay up, that they're just playing some really poor football, and the only shining light they've got is Satario, isn't it, who got the goal. That almost sparked the comeback, but in the end just wasn't enough, and Exeter saw it out. I mean, they've not won since the middle of March when they surprisingly beat Bolton. I mean, the fact that you're in this, but you need to be picking up points, even if it's a draw here, a draw there, and that's the difference between the two teams in terms of Burton and Bristol Rovers, because Burton can pick up results when they need them, and Bristol Rovers really just can't. And in this game, it was Watts and Reece Cole who scored. And I was calling it a derby in my notes. It seemed like it definitely in the sort of in terms of the crowd at the away end, at the very least. And I mean, they're not next to each other by any means, but it's the teams down that sort of area. There's not too many nearby, so as close as I think they're getting this season in terms of a derby. And the Reece Cole goal, I hope you've seen it, Seb, because it was an absolute beauty. Goal of the day for me in League One. Sort of volleying it into the top corner and setting Exeter well on their way with the 2 goals between the pair of them. So, yeah, I mean, Exeter, I guess we can give a brief word on in a second. But for Bristol Rovers, that is the main talking point, that they are now out of control in terms of the fight for safety, and it is no longer in their hands, and they need a favour. And Burton, I beg your pardon, with the game in hand as well, could stretch that to a 3-point gap with the better goal difference. Becomes, as we mentioned earlier, that becomes an extra point at this stage of the season, and suddenly it's a real mountain to climb.
Yeah, and that sort of it shows the importance of goal difference and teams scoring goals. It's now 6 defeats in a row for Bristol Rovers. Really disappointing. I think Burton have got the momentum, and they've got the history and the track record of picking up these results when not playing well. And I don't think Bristol Rovers do. In truth, I think that they've really struggled so far this season. They went through a really good patch actually over sort of the New Year time, and when combined with a new manager taking over. But since then, it's gone a little bit downhill for them. As for Exeter, I guess a little shout out for them. 15th place, up from League 2 last year. No, they weren't. That was ignore me. They were 15th place at the minute, 52 points. I think they're about expected where we thought they would be.
Yeah, safe as houses now, aren't they? I mean, they're very inconsistent in terms of results of late, but they've done enough, and their 10-point gap now between themselves and the relegation zone will be enough to see them safe. So credit to them, really, isn't it? I mean, they've had perhaps not the most flashy season on in terms of the league, but they had that really good FA Cup run as well. A couple of big nights out for the football club and the fans in that regard, and they've done okay in the league. They're safe. Going to finish sort of lower mid-table. It's not been a bad season at all for Exeter, and they played well in this game. Watching this extended highlights, they were miles the better team and looked really quite good at times.
Yeah, for sure. And we've seen that in glimpses so far this season for Exeter, which I think will please a lot of the fans and people involved as well. In terms of results elsewhere, on Saturday in League One, Wigan drew 0-0 to Wrexham in the early kickoff, and that, of course, we covered. It's meant that Birmingham finished the day as champions. That's Wigan's fourth draw in their last 5 games, interestingly enough. Charlton continue their good run of form. Tyrese Campbell's first half goal enough to secure a 1-0 victory over Cambridge, and that means it's just 1 defeat in 11 now for Nathan Jones' side. Northampton and Reading, they were goalless between them, as well as a late red card in that one as well. And Lincoln and Shrewsbury doing everything they can to try and fight for survival. Not really sure this was enough, though. A point against their former manager, former Lincoln manager, Michael Appleton, obviously now at Shrewsbury. So, yes, that's all the League One results covered. Obviously, Birmingham and Peterborough not involved because of the EFL Trophy. On Sunday, we will have, I'm sure, discussion and coverage of that on our live stream. Don't forget, on Wednesday night, 7 p.m, on the League One Lowdown YouTube channel. We shall see you there. Anything else, Jamie, that you'd want to...
Yeah, and I mean, we mentioned it right at the start. We had Sam's a big fan little video saying to subscribe, and if you do subscribe, obviously you'll be notified when we do go live on Wednesday. So you make sure not to miss that. The other thing from the Lincoln game, Steve Evans was in attendance, which has done the rounds on social media. He was he can play the pantomime villain, can't he? He was the fans were chanting his name as he walked off, and he gave them a little wave. So yeah, all credit down. I know he gets a lot of stick, but he takes it well, doesn't he? In that one there. And the other thing I wanted to mention, obviously I know Callum and Sam talked about it a lot in terms of Birmingham securing their promotion last week. Now we know they're champions. I mean, all credit to them. We've spoken, not as much as Callum, but we've spoken a lot about how much money they've spent this season, but they've spent it very well and wisely, and they've played some really incredible football at times. They've just been a level above the rest of the division is simply how it looks, isn't it? And how it has been, that they are miles too good for League One, and they've made that clear. My only plea, though, is that they don't win 5 of their last 6 games, because if they do, they'll have won 34 games for the season, which will break the record for most in an EFL season, which is currently held by Doncaster. So I'm hoping that somehow they lose a couple of these, or don't win 5 of the last 6, just so we can keep hold of that record. 78 years we've had that, so it'd be nice if we can keep that for I mean, you expect it to be a good few years more, because these sort of teams don't come around very often. So yeah, fingers crossed in that regard. But I think they'll do it as well, to be honest. And yeah, they've been quite incredible, haven't they, all season? So
they have, yeah. Credit to them. That's a slightly selfish point of view there, isn't it, from Tony Rovers' point of view. Yeah, as you mentioned, don't forget to miss our live stream on Wednesday at 7 p.m. And if you haven't, please do subscribe. We're on the race for 1K. We hope to get there by the end of the season. Very close to get, so we appreciate all your support. So if you have got to this point and you're not subscribed, then go and press the subscribe button, please. That is it for us today. As we mentioned, we'll be back on the live stream on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on the League One Lowdown YouTube page. But until then, we'll see you there.